Told the plug I need 100 pigs, and my shoebox got 100 G. I told my plug I need 100 pigs, and my shoebox got 100 G. Told the plug I need 100 pigs, and my shoebox got 100 G. I told my plug I need 100 pigs, and my shoebox got 100 G. I'm in Cali.
All right, you're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FN, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We are also streaming live video on Facebook Live. Just go to facebook.com/New Haven Independent or go to your Facebook page and look us up, and also hit see first. And you can get all the great shows that we have here on the New Haven Independent and WNHH right in your news feed. So, Kebra, how are you today?
I am pretty good, thank you. I just realized it was probably a bad idea to put a pretzel in my mouth.
Well, we got some water here. I know. Sometimes we have to eat on the run.
Mm-hmm.
So, Uncle Lou's on his way. He had some home repairs to deal with, and he said he'd be here in a few minutes. So, in the meanwhile, while we're waiting for him, let's chat about a couple things that have been going on in the cannabis industry lately. Let's see. We have a ton of bills in, first of all, but I think you and I, why don't we talk about a little press conference that was held last week.
Gasping spoons.
By Representative Joe Arsimowitz and who was his cohort there? Who was with him?
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
There was two of them there.
Yeah.
Who was it, Harry? Oh, Mike.
Oh, what happened?
You want to speak into the...
Oh, I'm not talking into the mic? Okay.
All right, so they had a press conference, and they went over a bunch of things, all the policies. And two things stuck out to me. First of all, he said right away that they're taxing groceries.
Stupidness.
Is on the table, and prescription medications.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a full 6% tax. It's a 2% tax, but still, regardless of that, it's a tax on groceries that we've never had in this state before.
Mm-hmm.
So are we that broke all of a sudden that now we need to start taxing groceries? So it's ridiculous. And then, of course, he talked about cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the two takeaways that I got from it was, they're pretty much set. He pretty much came out and said, we are going to use the existing infrastructure to kickstart the recreational program, and that the reason they want to do it is because they want to keep it out of urban centers. He basically said, as long as I am leader of the House, you will not see. Maybe you could explain a little more than me.
Well, I'm just wondering how the same government structure, basically, that introduced drugs into our communities,
right,
now want to tell us what we can and cannot have in our communities. Meanwhile, there are any people who look like us, or act like us.
There's a few.
Like
there's a few neighborhood homes.
Very little.
Not anymore,
very
right?
Few.
Big ones put them out of business.
Exactly. So, I'm just trying to figure out how he figures this is the best option for our communities. Tell them to come visit our communities and ask our community what we want. We want opportunities. Right. We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to run this game. Like we've been harmed by the criminalization of this plant, by the racially motivated, unfair, overly sentenced penalties related to cannabis. And so we should have a say as to what we want. And I believe that the majority of us do want these businesses, these cannabis businesses in our communities, so that we can be partakers instead of just consumers.
Right.
And that seems to be what the push is, for us to just remain consumers.
Right.
For us to just purchase and buy from these
big companies that have already been doing it,
that have no concern with reinvesting in the community, don't plan on living in the communities unless it's a gentrified community, and that's a whole nother kind of situation.
Yeah.
But like for him to say that while he's Speaker of the House, this will never happen, but he's honestly considering taxing groceries and microbreweries can just go on forever and ever, no problem. That's kind of ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I mean, for the fact that him to say, as long as he's Speaker of the House, you will not see pot shops in Hartford or New Haven and big in urban centers. I mean, what's that to say? Only you can have them in, Guilford and, the rich communities is the only place, or the places they already are? Is that what they're saying? So Milford, Brantford, they're all okay to have marijuana businesses and dispensaries in them. But, it's pretty ridiculous.
I just feel like it's another misstep of people from outside of the communities that we're a part of coming in and trying to dictate what'll work best for our community.
Right.
We live it, we breathe it, we go through it every single day. So, number one, you should be getting input before you're making statements like that.
Right.
Because Hartford wants cannabis in their communities. The Hartford City Council unanimously approved cannabis businesses in Hartford as a community.
Right.
The New Haven Board of Alders, that has been presented and they have yet to vote on it, but I'm pretty sure they're going to approve cannabis businesses being in their communities. Now,
Right.
what we don't want to do is oversaturate our communities like the alcohol, like the liquor stores and so on and so forth. We want to be responsible in where we put these businesses. We want to be able to have be vocal about access, but we're talking about things that people ultimately use as medicine. So
Right.
like, even if it's recreational, people use that to de-stress, to deal with depression. They don't necessarily, maybe they don't feel like they need a medical diagnosis for that. But once it becomes, the ability for an adult to make a choice as to whether or not to use it, they should be able to access it too. So you're going to say people from inner city communities now have to travel into the suburbs
Like they already do.
just to access medicine. That's now cutting off access. So there's many problems with what he had to say, and he needs to
Yeah, he really does, because if you look at it right
step
now,
off.
if you look at it right now, we have 9 dispensaries, 9 more coming online. And if they want to use the existing structure, so far there's 1 in Hartford. None in New Haven. There's going to be 1. And there's 1 in Waterbury. There's none in New London. So any of these areas, that we look at as more urban centers, you're going to tell me that if you're going to have a recreational market as well as a medical, that 1 dispensary in Hartford is going to handle that demand?
As we continue to have these conversations, before the New Haven dispensary goes online, if a New Haven patient wants access, they
Where
have
do
to
they go?
They have to take either to Brantford or to one of the Milford locations, and then that means that they have to get on a bus. They have to travel upwards of an hour. They have to make sure they're actually able to
Get on
back
the
and
line,
forth.
yeah.
And that's where having these larger corporations, that compassion isn't there, because if the company was a more compassionate type of company, in the situations that they are in right now, it doesn't say anything that they can't cover a taxi from the patient's home to the dispensary. And that's one of those services that some doctors' offices are taking up now for some of their handicapped patients. Like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm charging you $1,000 to your insurance anyway, so we could always tack on a car ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's different.
It's
totally,
ridiculous
they don't get that benefit.
that the access just isn't there. And now, if you keep that model in play and
it's
adapt,
still not going to be there.
and adapt an equitable portion of it as well, that big corporation can be in Brantford and then Milford, where now micro businesses are able to flourish in that urban area. That the large businesses that may not want it to work in that area, we can work in that area, because I'll have a micro business in the area if
exactly
GTI
right.
doesn't want to come into New Haven. Don't worry about it, buddy. You can stay up in Canada.
Well, exactly
You know?
right.
Exactly.
And, and not to say, look, these guys who did the dispensaries and the growers, they built the industry. But let's look at them now. How many of them have already
I would
sold
have been
out?
happy to build the
They
industry.
sold out already.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They've
'Cause
sold
this
out.
wasn't about
Yeah, it wasn't about building an industry. It was
No.
about selling out, I think.
exactly.
Yeah, it's having that exit point, and they're taking their exit points because it's just the owners that are doing it. The boards are staying in place. People are still staying in place to run the business, and they didn't make the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The pharmacists, if they were just one of the regular working pharmacists, they didn't make the money.
No.
You know,
This
if
is,
it was
you're right. All they have created here in Connecticut is jobs.
yeah.
I'll give them that much.
What? How many though?
Right. That was my next point. But how many? 300-400 jobs
Right.
between all of them? No, maybe a little more. I don't know how much, but they've created jobs.
It started a marketplace. It
Mm,
started
Right.
it. but
But we don't want job. I don't want a job. I
no,
don't want to
right.
work for anybody.
There are people
I
out there who
want
do.
to own my own business and be able to now and then let me be the employer.
Right.
You know, let me, if people want to work for me, let people work for me.
Yeah.
Let me train people. Let me give people opportunities, you know, and I don't want to be paying minimum wage. You know, I want to have a successful, viable business, you know,
Right.
so.
No, I get you, but that what we're trying to say is right now this is what's in place. This is the current marketplace, and they are set up to sell out really quick. And it's
They already have some.
oh,
of
they
them.
have a lot of them have a lot of them have. It's crazy because
Yeah.
the people that are coming in, the same faces that started these dispensaries, the first 3 or 4 licensed facilities aren't the same faces.
No, not the
anymore,
same people
you know?
anymore
So
at all. So
it's just their lobbyist.
and it's going to change even more. I mean, there's more up for sale. Acreage, I know, wants to buy 2 more dispensaries, got their eye on 2 more in Connecticut. And Kebra and I were discussing this in the elevator on the way up. We really think that this is the way Connecticut wants it.
Mhm.
That the government of Connecticut actually wants corporate marijuana in here and big business to come in because they guaranteed money, guaranteed to pay the taxes. Do you know what I mean? I think this is the way they actually want it. And we're probably going to get a lot of pushback for this entrepreneurial type of legislation being put in there. You know,
Oh yeah.
And I really think that it's, you know, for a while I was saying, you know, Connecticut, we have to get a, you know, equity language to legislators so that they can know. We got to put them in touch with Shalene Title, you know, from Massachusetts, so that they can know what equity is and what
set
it's
up
all
meetings,
about.
right?
And set up meetings. And I really was confident that because of the national conversation about the harm that the war on drugs had and equity
what Mass is doing.
what Mass in California and a lot of other places are
starting
to have conversations and implement, that Connecticut would, you know, be open to that because of the fact that you just can't ignore all of the wrongs that were done. But they're actually trying to do that. Like
Right.
totally ignore it and
Right.
totally make this a corporate entity. And so for you prohibitionists or you people who feel like you're a part of, you know, keeping cannabis from coming, let me tell you, it's coming. And the majority of what I hear from people who are anti-cannabis are like, they don't want big business.
They don't want
to
the
be
SAM.
taking
That's
over.
their big point.
But that's exactly what's
going
gonna
to
happen.
So
if
how
you
are we
don't
going to be
get-
able to agree with these people for once?
Exactly.
That's
you know,
scary.
that's exactly what's gonna happen if you keep putting your head in the sand and saying, well, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want
We don't
this.
want small business in Hartford or New Haven. You know, come right out and say it.
Yeah.
Speaker of the House,
Right.
the leader.
Yeah. Well,
Come on.
I mean, he's definitely in error, and he needs to be checked on that.
Yeah.
I don't he's Hartford. Well, where's his he's up there. Right?
Yeah, he's in the middle of the state,
like,
I think.
Well, people need to be contacting him, and we
And
can
educate
all
him.
because he's Speaker of the House, so we all kind of have
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
He
Everybody.
represents
Yeah.
us all.
Yeah, so we need to be letting him know, nah, this ain't how it's going down.
The error of his
you know,
ways,
and
yes.
and we voted for you, and he's like, he got 2 more years.
Yeah.
We can do something if you're talking like that because you're representing yourself.
Yeah.
You're not representing the people.
Right.
And
The polls have been used. They're out there. Connecticut is 71%, right, Joe? If I'm not
For
correct.
71% for
approval.
legalization.
It's crazy.
Well, we
Mhm.
know it's going to happen this year.
Mhm.
We do. But we're
Mhm.
in for a battle. Really,
Yeah.
if we want to get what we want, and Keeber's right, I really thought the legislator would be a lot more open to
Mhm.
hearing what we had to
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
But it took Gary Winfield to actually have to put a bill in
Mhm.
to amend the first bill that they put in
Yep.
because the first bill just didn't cover what needed to be covered as far as the state goes and as far as equity goes.
Mm-hmm.
And someone wrote there are 26,000 licensed employed. 26,000 licensed employees, I guess is what she meant, in the cannabis industry in Colorado, with a state with 5 million residents. Mass has almost 7 million, and they should have over 36,000 employed in this new industry this upcoming year.
Wow, see? So
that's a lot of jobs.
that's
and
a lot of jobs that could
opportunities
happen.
and a lot of money that can be brought into
And
the
both
state.
those locations have micro licenses.
Yep.
Also remember that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Colorado having
That's-
the opportunity to have single source cannabis
Tiers,
products,
yep.
Mhm.
and then as well as Massachusetts having the tiers and the single source option as well.
Right. So, yeah, we're going to have Jason on in a few minutes because there's a lot more. Everybody thinks that this 5595 is the only bill that's in.
Oh, no, there's tons.
It is not.
Can we talk about one bill in particular that
Lenny? No, which one?
Yeah, the one about employment.
Yes, Lenny.
Yeah, let's talk about this employment.
Oh, our call's in. Good.
Oh, geez.
Yep.
Jason don't waste no time.
We'll talk about it with Jason, too. You know he's got something to say.
He must have been listening to us.
So let me go ahead. Call.
Good to be back.
Jason Ortiz from Cure, Connecticut. How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's a warm day out.
Yeah, it's beautiful
for
out.
Legalization with equity in buildings, so I'm feeling pretty good. How are you guys?
We're good, thank you.
Good. We were just discussing some of the bills that have been put in, and we were just got through talking about Joe Arsimowitz and how he misspoke the other day, quite heavily.
I'm looking forward to hearing, him clarify what he meant by that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So we were about to get onto this bill from Len Fasano.
There's so many.
Yeah, we'll go over the cannabis bill. There's so many jewels in these bills. And if I remember correctly, after speaking to the legislators, they all said, I really think we shot ourselves in the foot last year by putting in so many bills, and it kind of confused the issue. Are they not doing the same thing this year? I mean,
they definitely are. But again, not everybody's on our team, so I think it is true that there's too many bills to confuse folks, but it's not by accident that happens.
No.
I mean, the Republicans are going to put in all kinds of bills to try to discriminate against cannabis users. I mean, like this bill in specific is very
extremely
discriminating cannabis users bill.
Yeah.
And then we have our Democrats that are putting in stuff to give priority treatment to massive corporations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of things going on. This bill in particular, though, is definitely one that everyone that cares about housing in general, but specifically making sure folks that consume cannabis are treated like everybody else, because this bill will make it allowable for. Are we talking about the one in housing, or are we talking about the one for employment?
Employment first.
Employment, right.
Oh, we have plenty to talk about.
Today.
Oh, the housing one is new. We'll just have to chat on that.
I didn't even see that one.
Go ahead. Yeah, so the bill, basically, the statement of purpose, I'll break it down to that, is to insulate an employer from civil action that is related to a firing or refusing to hire an employee because of a positive marijuana test.
So can I just say before you go in on this one, Jason, I went to a Department of Labor an event that they hosted, and it was about medical marijuana, but kind of marijuana in general. And it was a bunch of employers, and basically they spent the entire time, all of their questions were how to not hire medical marijuana patients. Exactly what they could do to work around it, because they do not want to hire medical marijuana patients. And so this is the general consensus. I don't know if it's because they feel like there be too many complications or whatever, but it's definitely because of a lack of knowledge and understanding of what cannabis is, how it works, what a cannabis consumer, like they're saying, well, we'll have a whole bunch of people who don't want to work and they're lazy.
You're making my head spin.
And I'm like, what? So I can tell you right now that employers, a good majority of them would be behind this bill.
Oh, yeah. That's rough.
Well,
Vega Holdings LLC is 100% a non-drug testing company. Let y'all know that. There are some applications out there if you need to find something.
All right. So Jason,
what do you think, Jason?
Break it down for us. What does this bill really mean?
This is just discrimination flat out, right? Like it
100%.
should be illegal at face value. That we're classifying a particular lawful activity, right? Because this is an anticipation of
legalization
broader laws happening down the road, right? I mean, this, to be quite honest, is already the case in a lot of spaces right now, right? A lot of our public sector workers, if they are caught, a lot of our workplaces are like zero tolerance. So, for instance, city halls, many folks that work at the state legislature, unless you have a union that has organized a contract for you that does not allow you to get drug tested, I mean, pretty much anyone that gets any kind of suspicion can be drug tested, and that is really unfortunate, and that's why we need to be pushing in the exact opposite direction. But this just goes to a more problematic for everyone in society part of law, where we're taking something that is legal but saying we won't let you work if you do it. And this is where cultural shifts have to happen, you know, in the same time and faster than legal challenges can. Because as Kebra mentioned, a lot of the employers that are going to be pushing for this are scared for some pretty irrational reasons.
Yes.
And I think that is something that as a cannabis community we need to address, that quite frankly most of the staff has been doing their work that they're doing now. A chunk of them have been doing it while consuming cannabis in their daily lives.
Yes.
It does not impair their ability to do their job.
Not at all.
The important things that we're talking about when it comes to cannabis is my consumption on my own time. Right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about what I do at work or anything like that. We all agree that's not okay. But if I'm at home and I'm engaging in a lawful activity that has no consequence to what I'm doing, you know, I work behind a desk and I do write emails and you know those kind of positions. I can guarantee you, my smoking the day before had zero impact on my ability to write those emails the next day, but maybe making me a little more cautious, you know. But that's something that there's no reason why somebody should lose their job over it. The other thing we have to separate out from this is what's called safety-sensitive positions. These positions are folks that operate heavy machinery, you know, deal with
transportation,
with the public in a way that they could hurt people, right? So those are kind of a separate situation where they have their own rules and regulations because of the dangerous nature of their job. At the same time, those positions are also subject to broader scrutiny over pharmaceutical medications that you take, right? You cannot be on heavy opioids and operating heavy machinery. You know, it's a legal activity that someone can do in their own home, but it's restrictions on work. That I understand, right? If you're a police officer, they should say you shouldn't be on certain substances while you're out on your beat because, you know, there's a risk of danger there. But if somebody is working in an office, right, like this idea that we're just going to push out all of these people is just straight up discrimination. And I don't really understand how folks can justify that blatant of discrimination being
and no recourse.
Right. And you
take
know
away
what?
their recourse.
And you know, a lot of people were saying, well, you know, employers are at will. They can hire and fire you for whatever they want. So why do they need a separate bill? Why do they need a separate bill to be put into law to, if that's the case?
Specifically for
cannabis. Because it's
like when you have at will, you it's true, you can be fired, but you can't be fired necessarily without cause. Right. And the person that fires you has to say why. And, you know, they may or may not have to pay for your unemployment or whatever it is, but generally there has to be a reason, right? It can't be because you're black. It can't be because you're Puerto Rican. That would be illegal.
But now it can be because you smoke weed.
Think it can be because you're a cannabis user. That to me just maxes such blatant discrimination and how, you know, an injury to one is an injury to all. If we allow this kind of bill to be put forward, it's just a stone's throw away for us to say, you know, somebody that goes out to clubs too late at night, can't work in the morning, so it's not going to hire them ever.
Cigarette smokers, vapors.
He's not trustworthy, so I guess we got to ban all those people. But what ends up happening is these companies lose out on talent. And that's the reality, that a lot of these folks, and we've seen it with government agencies like the CIA and FBI, actually can't find folks that can do, you know, coding and different kinds of computer sciences because the pool of those folks that want to be drug tested is rather small.
Can you imagine doing coding without?
We've had presidents that have consumed cannabis. We have Olympic athletes that have consumed cannabis. So it really is just based on nothing. It's based on fear, and we cannot allow people's fears to deny people economic opportunity.
Right. And let me just
hopefully this thing will get killed before it even goes to hearing.
You brought up people with public safety related jobs, like, you know, if they transport people that are handling heavy machinery. But it's important to know that if the only thing that's effective, let's just say for a truck driver, is cannabis to deal with their pain, and they take it at night to go to sleep before they go to work the next day, guess what? You will not be high the next day. So it should be about, like, employers should have very explicit rules in place about coming to work under the influence
of anything.
I agree with that, of anything. And if you violate that rule or those rules, then you should be terminated or disciplined or whatever is that you decide to do per your company policies. But you also have to understand that just because someone tests positive today doesn't mean they've consumed today. They're not under the influence of it anymore. It just shows up in their system.
Well,
that's really important for people to understand. And I think that's a major misconception.
Right.
That, you know.
Yeah, you're impaired just because it shows up in your blood.
That cannabis not be singled out for harsher punishment than everything else.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so if your job has, you know, employment rules and regulations about being sober on the job site or what have you, great, you know, like, you know, keep your people safe, 100%, absolutely.
Right.
But don't single out certain groups of people.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we say cannabis, right? It's cannabis users that are blocked from the job, right? We're not. We always have to humanize these laws as we're talking about it. And so it's blocking out that whole group of
we're talking people here
from employment, and that's discrimination.
Right, and that is so broad that you could be a CBD user and could potentially 100%. Fall under that. Yeah, you could be you could be in the work
night.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could be in the lunchroom and say to an employee, a fellow employee, "Oh yeah, when I was 15, I consumed cannabis." Would that be enough for you to get fired based on this? The way it's so broad, you know, you never know. So you have to be careful. They have to really be careful.
It just shows the mentality of the legislators in this state.
Exactly.
That goes hand in hand with the other bill as far as the impairment driving.
Yes.
To set up the standards that O'Day put in.
These nanograms.
These are just like knee-jerk reactions to the fact that they know cannabis legalization is coming. Jason, you mentioned something. Let me do something real quick. I got to just pay the bills here. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook Live. Just go to facebook.com/New Haven Independent, or just go to your Facebook page and look us up. Okay. You mentioned something about a new housing bill that they put in?
Right. So there was also a bill that I saw that I was talking to Brian at Center about before that would essentially you can kick people out for smoking marijuana. And so it says smoking, but obviously it's a little bit weird. Like currently, if you are smoking in your apartment, you know, there's all kinds of rules and regulations for that. But it's one that would provide further power to landlords to evict people for marijuana-related activities. And so this is, again, being discussed at the same time as we are going to legalize. And so what happens if both bills pass, right? It gets really weird there where we're legalizing something, but they're putting stricter punishments for doing a now legal activity, and it's going to get chaotic. And
this is what they did in California, you know.
You know, if this would happen. And so this is where, as we have champions like Gary Winfield and Robin Porter and Josh Elliott and Juan Candelaria, we have Republicans that are putting in some wild stuff that we also have to be conscious of and make sure we push those
really
down
wild
and that they don't
stuff.
Because there's multiple different bills to discriminate specifically against our community.
Right.
And that
really
is
is
2019.
Right.
There really is, and they're just coming out of the woodwork. I mean, even saw a bill where they're worried about dogs now. They're literally making a bill that veterinarians
can't talk. They can't talk about it or something.
Here it is. Here it is. An act establishing guidelines for veterinarians regarding discussion of certain substances. To establish certain guidelines for their veterinarian with regard to cannabis. It specifically says cannabis in here. For discussing use of cannabis type substances for pets.
So you can't talk CBD with your pet doctor.
Who took the time to write this?
Yeah, who cares? Rudigliano. 123rd District. So, I mean, combine that with
y'all voted for him, whoever he is.
This is what these Republicans are wasting their time
That's
on.
That's definitely on the wild end of the ones.
Right.
But if nobody talks about it, it'll pass.
They just keep popping up.
Yeah. So now
What, Jason?
I was going to say, I think what this bill, right, and all the rest of these is that, quite frankly, you know, we all enjoy, you know, cannabis as a plant is a fantastic thing, but this is not just about people smoking. This is about people's housing. This is about people's health care. It's about people's pets. Right? Like, they're coming after all of our rights in this really, you know, sort of evil octopus way of like 18 different things going at the same time. That this is where we're at in Connecticut right now, right? We have 91% of the population that is ready and willing and wants to have economic opportunity for their communities. And then we have elected officials that are just going to keep trying the same reefer madness approach that has worked in the past, quite frankly. And so if we're not vigilant and united in fighting all of these things, it has never been more clear to me that they are willing to take away everything from our community if it means continuing their ridiculousness.
Right.
So now they're putting it in legal terms. So if there was ever a question if the cannabis movement right now is about racial and social and economic and housing justice, like it could not be more clear.
It is,
Question
especially
over.
in this state. I'm shocked at the state I live in.
Yeah.
I really am. So I'm looking at the bills that have been put in. So Gary Winfield has put in 2 bills so far, 744, and of course the one that we all like, which is 690.
And we like it because it offers equity and opportunity, and it offers a new beginning for ex-offenders and possibilities, and our Office of Justice Reinvestment to oversee this whole process. So that's why we like it, and that's why you should too.
And it's basically the whole statement of its purpose is just to establish a cannabis equity policy. That's all he wants to do.
Exactly.
Just make sure that whatever bill passes, there is a cannabis equity policy in there. So that's a great bill right there from Gary. And then
690.
And then he put in another one, 744, and the statement of its purpose is to amend the palliative marijuana use program to establish and regulate a recreational use program. But in the body of the bill, he basically wants to make sure that medical marijuana is not taxed, lower the fee to $50, and take away the $25 registration fee for veterans,
veteran caregivers,
so people who are taking care. And then in the end, it says and set up a system to regulate and recreational use of marijuana.
So we like that one too. That's 744.
Yeah, that's Bill 744.
Senate Bill 744.
This
if
seems
you're looking
more like
for
a
guidance, we're happy to help.
preemptive measure from Gary, doesn't it? From Senator Winfield. Seems like a little preemptive measure from him
based
for that,
on some conversations he must have been having.
He's seen the grocery tax, had the pharmacy tax in there, and I'm sure he's been speaking to patients. So these are 2 bills from Senator Winfield that we put our endorsement on. Do we agree, Jason?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would also add the patient grow rights bill.
Yeah,
yes, I have that right here.
That's next. We on it, Jason.
I have that right here. This one is from Robin Porter and Senator Moore. This is 476. And this is just a simple statement to allow certified medical marijuana patients to cultivate cannabis at home. No plant limits, no nothing, just to start to establish the policy.
And it definitely helps to support the continuation of the medical marijuana program. You know, people will specifically be looking to become medical marijuana patients to be able to grow their own cannabis.
100%.
So it's a beautiful thing, and we fully support this. What's this number?
Bill 476.
Okay, so this is
HB 76.
76.
476.
Okay, excuse me. So the patient grow rights submitted by Robin Porter and Marilyn. How about to say Monroe? Marilyn Moore. Is HB 476.
Yes.
We support that as well.
You're on with that, right, Jason?
Oh, absolutely. And Marilyn Moore is actually running for mayor of Bridgeport, in case anybody in the Bridgeport area is looking for a pro-cannabis.
Against Big Joe, huh? She's taking on Big Joe. Good for her.
That's right. It's going to be an interesting one over there.
Oh, yeah.
So can we talk about Rep. Candelario's bill, please?
Yes, I have that one right here. This is interesting. This is Rep. Bill number 6863, just submitted by Rep. Candelario, separate, all by himself. Statement of purpose: to legalize and regulate the retail sale of marijuana and to utilize the current infrastructure to facilitate retail sales.
Which means
I have a problem with this.
Which means, just in case you were wondering, that our current medical providers
and growers,
so that's dispensaries and growers, would continue to would begin the adult use program here, and limit opportunities for communities.
Yes,
that one's a little puzzling to me, coming from Rep. Candelario.
Yeah. And basically what it does is it maintains the monopoly.
It's a big business.
Gives the state all the that's really what it's about. The state wants to keep the control it has.
And it's not necessarily the state, because remember, the dispensaries and grow facilities are private entities. So it is a monopoly.
But the state
know
is
what I mean?
supporting.
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the-
Oh, I'm not taking away
Yeah,
from their
yeah.
harm.
Sponsored monopoly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not-
state-sponsored
Yeah,
monopoly.
there
That's
you
what
go.
it is.
That's
So,
so,
Jason,
yeah.
any thoughts about that
Yeah,
To
one?
what
make
did you
sure
think about
everybody's
this
in
one?
trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as 5595. Absolutely not.
Okay.
It doesn't address anything. I'm a big fan of Juan Candelaria. I think his heart is in the right place on this, and I do think he'll come around and join us in the empowerment side of this debate. I think, he wanted to make sure a bill got in there. I didn't have any particular conversations with him about this bill before it got introduced, so I can't really speak to it specifically. However, the only thing it does say, I am 110% against. And so
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't think we'll be getting behind this unless it is dramatically changed.
Right.
Right.
But I do think, Juan, generally speaking, has been a champion with us, and we just have to be more vocal maybe in explaining why we think this is not the way to go.
Yeah.
And then also addressing, other concerns that other constituencies in his area, I'm sure, are, voicing, because there's a significant number of Puerto Rican and Spanish people of faith that are, being quite vocal against this. And so, I think maybe engaging with the New Haven population more generally is something that Cure and Normal and some of us can do to help these folks come around on the issue.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that was a little surprising coming from Juan.
Yeah, because I just don't I always thought that he was championing adult use
Grow
in
rights, the
Connecticut
whole deal, yeah.
for entrepreneurship and reinvestment in communities, which would not happen based on that bill.
Right.
So obviously, we need to have further conversations with him about this.
I
Right.
think he wasn't educated enough, and it's just as our friend, we will help him.
All
We will
right.
help him along
Well,
his way.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Exactly. We all have friends that go to the wrong bars.
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just gotta bring him to the right.
That's
Other people, right? Like,
Mhm.
hang out over here and it'll be fine.
Yeah, we're not gonna throw you away yet.
Now, the last bill I'm looking at here is 496. It's a Senate bill. And this was done by Senator Looney, McCrory, Cassano, Winfield is on this one as well. Abrams, Moore, Bradley, Kushner, Duff, and Needleman. It's basically the statement of purpose is to provide for the legalization, taxation, and regulation of the retail sale, personal growth, and recreational use of cannabis by individuals 21 years of age or older. Pretty basic. It does include grow rights that wants personal growth, and it doesn't say anything about using the infrastructure. So what do you think about that one? That's a Senate bill.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty generic.
Mhm.
It doesn't include anything about equity, so I'm inherently against it unless it's in there.
I
It's
see
still when I
Winfield
see the
endorsed it
writing.
though, so he must, know that they're going to put something in there.
Well, I mean, folks put their names on bills at the beginning, but none of these bills have been written.
Right.
And so, as written, it does not include equity.
It's
Right.
not
And
enough.
that's what I have to keep
Right.
reminding everybody is, I get you can add it later, but we're not talking about the bill you wrote later. We're talking about the bill you wrote right now.
Right.
Right.
And this is what it says right now.
Right.
If it doesn't say that people actually affected by the war on drugs are going to be at the front of the line, then we got to slow down and rewrite it.
Put it in
Right.
there.
And it's not the communities most affected by the problem's fault that our legislature has decided to ram this through quickly after waiting decades to get it right. So
Exactly.
this hurry up and wait approach, right? Is like, oh, well, we got to just wait 20 years, but now all of a sudden we only have a month to write this. Well, you should have took your time last year and
Mhm.
listened to
Mhm.
the
Right.
hundreds of people that testified on this. This
Mhm.
isn't the first time we're having this discussion.
Mhm.
So
This
I
isn't
think a
news.
lot of elected officials, put these bills in there as placeholders,
Yep.
and placeholders are missing some details, and we say, well, that placeholder doesn't have what we think makes sense.
Mhm.
We're against it. If you want to change it, if you want to add a new bill, put more language in it, that's fantastic. We can work with you on that.
Mhm.
But as
Right.
it stands right now, if it doesn't have it, I can't support it.
Mhm.
Right. And
Because we must have equity from day one.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be a
it has to just
afterthought.
be put in there, right?
Yeah, it has to be in from day one.
Yeah.
We will not support any bill that does not speak of equity.
And licensing, reasonable, fair entry licensing
That's
fees,
equity.
that's equity, right?
Yep.
That all goes
Right.
in there,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
I mean, the thing is that all the things that help our equity applicants and folks that have been directly affected help poor folks generally.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because what we're talking about is folks that can't navigate massive legal systems, that can't put up millions of dollars in escrow, right? These are all the things that our communities are facing, but it's really a matter of capital. And so we want to make sure that anyone, that is trying to enter the industry, a regular person like myself or Joe or Kebra or Lou, has the ability to at least try. And
Right.
if I don't see that in a bill, I'm going to say we got to wait until we get it right, because while some folks may say, oh, we just pass it now and we'll fix it later, from what I see in the rest of the country, that is not the approach we should.
No, you have to start right
Everywhere
away
else
with
has
it.
been making massive problems and is not achieving equity. Even Massachusetts, which is a leader in language on equity, has still had zero or maybe close to zero, people of color receive licenses.
Yeah.
So, I understand folks feel like there is urgency, and I too share that urgency, but at this point, I'm not willing to spell out all the reasons why this movement came to be to begin with, just so that a very, very tiny select few group of wealthy out-of-state investors can make a little more.
Yeah,
I'm willing to wait for adult use.
Yeah,
I'm willing to wait a year till they get a system.
Yep.
I'm willing to wait for adult
with a
use.
patient with a patient grow bill.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the thing
yeah,
is, I don't
I'm
think
not
we
really
actually have
willing.
to,
I mean,
and
Wait,
we
huh?
can get some people to not be 100% greedy.
Right.
Right. And so what we're trying to push doesn't stop these folks from making lots of money, but the other way around is not true. They are trying to stop us from being able to get involved.
Right.
100.
And
If we
aren't
can find a
shy
way
about
where
it.
we can both profit, that's great, but that's not what I'm seeing so far.
Right. And they're
No.
not shy about it. Like
No,
they seem
not
to
at
be
all.
very
Right.
out there that they have no concern.
We
for-
seem to think this is how Connecticut wants it. I really think, and Kebra and I, we were all discussing, we really think Connecticut wants big corporate marijuana in here.
Mhm.
That the legislators and the
Well,
government
let's
like that
differentiate
idea.
between Connecticut, the population, and Connecticut, the state legislature.
Legislature,
Oh,
yeah, the
oh, yeah.
legislator, yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
I would say the people of Connecticut do not, right?
Right.
If you look at the responses on various articles that you see, or just comments from the general public,
Mhm.
you are well aware that this is some crony capitalist nonsense.
Mhm.
And
Really
so
big
it's really
time.
just the folks in that building that want it
Right.
for various personal and ideological reasons.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's unfortunate the state has been that way for a long, long time. Really has.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
has.
Since the divine right of kings, but remember that ended too.
Yes.
Right? Like it's been going on for a long time, but things changed, and I think now we're in a time in our country and just in general in the world where policy is changing, perspectives are changing, and it's time for our legislature to accept that. But they won't do it unless we pound on the door and make them.
Well, remember, this is the land of steady habits here now. And
Surrounded
our
by
legislator
Puritans, too.
wears that like a badge of honor.
Mhm.
They really do. They talk. Oh, so anyway, Jason, we're gonna let you go now because we got to finish up
All
the
right.
show. We appreciate you coming
Yeah,
on.
thank you.
We look forward to seeing you.
absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll be seeing you soon and talking to you soon. And thank you for keeping up the good fight. Real quick, you have a letter writing campaign going on with Cure Connecticut.
Yes,
Can
we do.
you explain to the people how they can get involved with that, and also how they can get in touch with Cure if they want to join the fight, and help get equity in the cannabis industry?
So our website is curect.org, and our Facebook page is named CureCT. You can find us on both. If you look on our page or on our Facebook, you'll see we have a letter writing campaign to get our rep to co-sponsor SB 690, which is the equity bill, and get a hearing. I think it'll be
That's
a big
important.
step forward for us if we can have a hearing specifically on cannabis equity and what it means for the communities that are most impacted. So go to our Facebook, go to our website, sign up there. You'll hear lots of things. Also on Tuesday, tomorrow, at City Hall at 5 p.m., the City Council is going to be meeting with a number of the state delegations to discuss priorities. And so if you can make it, please go. It's 5 p.m. at City Hall in Hartford, which is 550 Main Street. There'll be a number of elected officials there that we can tell them to co-sponsor SB 690 and get us a hearing on cannabis equity.
Oh, that's great. Great. So remember that, folks, tomorrow night, 5 o'clock, down at the Hartford City Hall. Get down there if you're interested.
And in
you can
regard to
make it.
the letter, it's so easy. I did it, and you just put in your name, your email address, and your address, because that helps to auto
know where you're
populate
at,
your
yeah.
legislators, and it takes literally less than a minute.
Yeah,
Right.
it's really we tell
I
everybody.
did it.
It'll
They
find
even
your
give you a
legislator
little
for you,
template,
and
right?
even pre-write the message that you can edit
Mhm.
however you want.
Yep.
So it gives you a template. So it's very simple, folks. So please check out the Cure CT Facebook page. Click on the link. Write a letter. Let's get this happening in Connecticut. We don't want big corporate weed here.
No.
We can't have McDonald's weed here in Connecticut.
No.
We need our
Think about
chance.
McDonald's food.
Right, and we don't even want that here.
Mid.
But all right, Jason, we'll speak to you
Thanks,
soon.
Jason.
Thanks again.
All right, thank you. We'll talk soon.
Later.
All right.
Bye.
So, wow, that was great. That was the most I think that we've gotten in depth. I really feel like I got a good handle on all these different bills now, and they all end up in the same way that I thought anyway.
Yeah.
They go in the filing.
And
cabinet.
Paul sent me a message about Whitcoast's bill wanting to fast track alcohol regs. Did you know anything about that?
I don't know nothing about
Okay,
that.
well, next week, Paul, we'll dive
we'll
into
have
that
Paul
one.
on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll have you call in on Monday.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to real quick. They had a hearing today up in Hartford.
Yes.
To add opioids to the medical opioid withdrawal, whatever they call it, syndrome or something.
Yes.
To the medical marijuana bill here in Connecticut. I got a report from Brian that he had a great testimony up there. There was only one opposition, and do you know who it came from?
Oh.
The Board of Physicians of our medical marijuana program. One of the physicians on the board went up there and opposed it. But Brian said he countered every point of his, and he thinks he made a really good impression up there.
Good.
So they're going to vote on
Brian.
it, and we'll see.
Go, Brian.
And Harry's giving me that 2-minute warning, so let's go over what we got going on here. Wednesday night, the Connecticut Medical Marijuana Discussion Group at Bohemian High in Milford. That starts at 7. I'll be running that with Brian. The Saturday medical marijuana class with Kebra, right up here, 178 Temple Street. We're almost got a full house now. I've been getting a lot of requests. So people, if you want to go, hit us up.
And I provide food.
We bring food
and entertainment.
That's right, and it's always a good time up there with Kebra. You learn a lot about medical marijuana and how to get in the industry. 17th, we got the Gene Traders Expo over at Oakdale in Wallingford. That's
17th of March.
Of February.
It's February?
Yeah. Well, the farming expo
2 weeks.
in March. Yeah.
Jesus.
2 weeks. Gene Traders. That's at noon. That's at Oakdale. That's a great cultivation type of expo. The normal meeting is the 20th at the Rough Draft. So if you guys want to get involved and help us fight for good legalization in Connecticut, Hamden, Rough Draft, 7 p.m. on the 20th. Uncle Lou's doing a cooking class on the 26th up here at Temple Street at 10 o'clock. And then on the 9th is the Farming Hemp Expo at the Oakdale in Wallingford, and that starts at 1 o'clock. And if you want info on that, you can also contact Uncle Lou.
Kebra's speaking, Joe's speaking, we're speaking, Lou's speaking, the team is
all speaking.
Dr. Uma is coming down. Ellen is doing a seminar as well.
So it's going to be a good time. A lot of people from the industry coming. If you really want to learn about the hemp industry, that's a good one.
Correct.
And I just want to say congratulations to my fellow co-host for being nominated for Connecticut Cannabis Activist of the Year. Congratulations by NECAN. So we'll find out in March. There were a lot of talented individuals, a lot of instructors that teach our
all of them, I think.
Our classes up here. They've been, like Ellen,
Uncle Lou, you, everybody. We've all been nominated. It's a nice thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
Completely unexpected.
Totally unexpected.
Kebra, you got 2 nominations.
I did. I did. I'm like up against Shalene and Chanel, and I'm like, man,
you are definitely our champion for diversity.
Respect to them.
So that was awful nice. That was really cool.
It
I
was.
hope, may the best person. It doesn't matter. We all win.
Like if y'all win, I win.
We'll go up
together.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sharing the
there were a couple
trophy.
people I didn't know though. I don't know where they came from.
I don't either.
Well, they put
and
their
Christina,
parts in. Yes,
Eva,
Christina, 100%.
Yep, she's up there.
But there were a few people.
Canna Health is open this week in New Haven on Friday and Saturday. Friday 2 to 6, Saturday 10 to 2, and in Hartford Saturday 10 to 2.
Nice. So we'll see you all next week. We'll talk more about this legalization. Fight for equity.
Yes.
Facts over fear.
Yeah, equity or nothing.
We love you all. Stay happy, healthy, and happy.
We ain't gonna burn nothing but a J.
We burn.
Blue sherbet stuff to hold y'all. 100 P's on the Bay Bridge, stuck in traffic. If I ever run into Riri, let's make magic. Die doing something you love, it ain't tragic. Heard what I said, nigga, it ain't tragic. From the home of lay down, smoking ratchets. Never win when you spell it backwards. I got green in the bay, my whole team Packers. Hold the